So this man wanted some share of the inheritance. We don't know if he had a right to it by Jewish rules. We don't know if he needed it, but he sure wanted it. The wanting of things in this life can be dangerous. Probably, if not in your own family, in some acquaintances of yours, you've seen what can happen at the time of somebody's death, and people wanting a share of that, wanting some particular item that two other people in the family want. Sometimes families are torn apart by this wanting of things and possessions and inheritance. A friend of mine once told me that she was shopping with her aunt, who was of some means. And Pat saw something and she said, "Ooh, I really like that, but I don't need it." Her aunt looked at her and said, "Oh, honey, if you want it, you need it." Imagine going through life believing that anything I want, I need. Whoa. Vladimir Putin wants part of Ukraine. Maybe he wants all of it. But does he have any right? Does Russia have any need of that land? And yet look what his wanting has caused the world. Look at the deaths and the suffering and the destruction because of one man's want, not his need. Benjamin Netanyahu similarly wants to keep building settlements in land that doesn't belong to Israel, and possibly wants all of Gaza. But what right? What's his need of all that? And look at the suffering that's caused. The need is for food for children who are starving to death. That's the need, not what he wants. Sinful confusion of values. When President Trump was elected, he wanted Greenland. What right do we have to Greenland? What do we need Greenland for? But if you live by the philosophy, if I want it, I need it, then you can go in that direction. I remember speaking with someone at the recent election who really didn't want to vote for Donald Trump, but she really believed that her investments would grow best if he was the president. Who are we thinking about sometimes when we're making our decisions about our possessions? Jesus takes the occasion of the man asking to talk about greed in that very telling parable. Francis of Assisi had plenty of possessions. But he learned early on from the gospel that those possessions are not what matters in life. He chose a life of divestment of everything he owned. Now he was radically poor. I'm not suggesting that everyone needs to do that. But it's a great example of someone who realized, I don't need much of what I had. And as life went on, he even wanted less and less. He learned that the less he had, the more he could appreciate all that existed. He could behold the world without holding it, without possessing it, owning it. A wonderful example of our possessions are not necessarily what brings us joy. And Francis found so much joy in being freed from holding on to so much. That's, I think, the continuing challenge for all of us, not just on the world scene, but in our private individual lives. At times checking myself, what I want, what I need. I came in Saturday morning through the door here on Republic Street, carrying a few things in my hand, including my Bearcats hat. And the gentleman who was kind enough to get up from the step to let me go in the door says, "Oh, I want that hat." I began to say, "Oh, this is my favorite Bearcat." I gave him the hat. I was already wearing one. It's not like I'm hatless. But I did want that one. But did I need it? No, I didn't need the hat. And he was not wearing a hat. So probably more than he needed it. It's little decisions like that, day in and day out, that we can make to help us stay on a path of righteousness, of trying not to possess so much, but to learn how to be ungreedy and certainly generous with how our lives have been blessed. St. Paul said in the second reading, we are to strive for the things that are above, not the earthly stuff. Or as Jesus said at the end of the gospel, to strive for what matters to God rather than the acquisition of more stuff. So we live in a world where greed is so real, not just in terms of money, but domination and power, and it leads to destruction. Jesus is teaching us away from such destructive lives to lives that really can be joyful and holy by learning to let go of stuff I don't need, tempering my wants, learning to live more free of all the earthly things that can hold me bound. So I leave with you this morning that little difference between want and need. Be careful. Just because you want it, oh honey, that means you need it. Oh. Just let's be free to be generous with what God has given us. May we live with that kind of freedom and the joy that actually comes from being free, of having to possess and hold and protect all of our stuff.